Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Kyle Mahone. I am a solutions architect with Amazon Web Services. I am based out of Dallas, Texas, and I have been with Amazon for just over 5 years now. I currently work on the worldwide public sector federal partners team, and I am excited to get to talk to you today about getting started with observability in AWS. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So with AWS Observability, our goal is to ensure that our customers have a great observability experience, no matter what service you're using. So when we say that AWS Observability is end-to-end observability, basically what we mean is that our AWS services and capabilities can meet your needs from out-of-the-box observability to cross-account observability, streamlined data collection, driving insights, and open source needs. For example, one of the great things about Amazon CloudWatch is the zero-touch management approach. You just install an agent, get your data flowing, and we take care of the rest, from scaling, managing retention policies. CloudWatch also offers unique curated experiences across containers, Lambda, and those all just help you quickly gain and maintain observability within those different environments. And we're going to take a look at some of those here a little bit later on. So there's also popular open source offerings, such as Prometheus, Grafana, and customers love these open source tools, right? Because they're open source. But once you get to your scale, they tend to get a little bit more difficult to manage. So our managed open source availability services, Amazon Managed Grafana and Amazon Managed Service Prometheus, help to eliminate a lot of that difficulty that customers tend to run into. And what it does is it basically just eliminates the undifferentiated heavy lifting associated with managing these types of tools. Our end-to-end observability helps our customers to monitor their infrastructure, whether that be containers, cloud services, underlying resources. And that just helps to improve user experience for your customers, improve application performance, achieving SLOs and SLAs, and then also to optimize your costs. And we're going to take a look at how here. So we recognize how important observability is to every organization. No matter what size your company is, no matter what industry you are, we all have to have observability into how our resources are operated. So whether it's on-premise, a hybrid between cloud and on-premise, or just purely cloud. And that's also regardless of, whether it's networks that we're monitoring, infrastructure, applications, containers, you have to have that observability in order to help drive the decisions that you're going to make to get those outcomes that you want. Starting with the sources and workloads that you bring to the table. So what data do you have? What workloads do you need to monitor? What is important to you, right? And AWS, we consume more than, CloudWatch consumes more than 120 AWS services, as well as monitoring multiple other data sources. And that goes across on-premises, and then also your hybrid, multi-cloud, or even containerized workloads. So next, we're moving over to the data collection. Nowadays, there is an abundance of data, and it is more distributed than ever. So we need to be able to monitor and observe everything in that distributed system. And it's more important than ever to have greater observability into those. So in the age of microservices and containers, and then ephemeral workloads, it's very easy to spin up resources. The difficulty comes in managing that data. So there's data coming from everywhere, right? Your workloads, your IoT, sensors, on your factory floors. In the old days, you can look at everything in a single box. And nowadays, it's everywhere. So not only does AWS Observability integrate with those more than 120 AWS resources, we can also consume that data from any of your other data sources, outside data sources. We collect that open source or AWS native data in the forms of traces, metrics, and logs, which I know you guys have heard about today because since everybody else before me was talking about all that. So for the data processing, next we want to make sure that we enrich that data. So all of that data coming in from all of those different sources, we want to be able to enrich it to be used for monitoring your applications and systems effectively. So we're going to give that data context so that way we can use it for monitoring and observability purposes and make that data work for you. For the data insight and analysis, our capabilities they range from aggregating, dashboarding, alarming, analysis, insights, correlation, and more. And we'll kind of get into what some of that looks like here in a minute. And then lastly, for this slide, we just want to touch on, again, that end-to-end observability. And if you'll notice, that's an overarching theme here is we want you to be able to monitor everything end-to-end. And we want you to be able to deliver that best customer experience for your end users. And the way that we enable you to do that with observability is by having increased reliability and availability, maintaining those SLO, SLAs, speeding up a root cause analysis, and deploying faster so your end users can enjoy new features and apps. So no matter where you are, what team you're on, whether it's from dev to IT ops, finance, AWS Observability is going to help you to understand what's happening in your application and system. So last thing I want to touch on is one of the most important considerations when you're getting started with observability. It's not your servers, it's not your network applications or customers. It is what matters to you, your business, your project, or your users. So first thing you want to do is you want to start with what is your success criteria. As an example, if you're running an e-commerce application, your measure of success may be, number of purchases made over the past hour. Those are the metrics we want to track. Those are the traces, the logs. We want to track that. We don't necessarily need to track every single aspect. And that's the point, is just making sure that we drill down onto what is important to you and then work backwards from there. So this is an overview of our observability portfolio. And I know this slide is a little busy, but observability is a very deep topic. And so we're going to kind of touch on some of the different capabilities, and then we're going to take a look at it in the AWS console right after this. So starting with the data points that we ingest on the left-hand side, we have logs, metrics, and traces. And that data is consumed via our CloudWatch, X-Ray, or A.agents, which is AWS distro for open telemetry. So the collectors, Amazon CloudWatch, allows you to collect custom metrics from your own applications to monitor operational performance, and then also to troubleshoot any issues and spot trends. So user activity is an example of a custom metric that you collect and monitor over a period of time. And then you can use the CloudWatch agent or put metric data API action to publish these custom metrics to CloudWatch. And then one of the most overlooked aspect, or maybe even the aspect that I see our customers needing the most help with, is tracing. So we use AWS X-Ray to perform distributed tracing across multiple applications and systems to help find latency in a system and target it for improvement. You can also utilize the CloudWatch agent for collecting logs and metrics, and the X-ray agent for collecting those traces. And then you can also collect metrics and traces using the AWS distro for OpenTelemetry. And then to collect logs and send them to CloudWatch logs, you can also use those open source tools such as FluentD or FluentBit. So AWS native services, like I mentioned, CloudWatch X and X-ray. CloudWatch also has the container insights, Lambda insights, contributor insights, and application insights that contribute to how we contextualize that data for insights and analysis. That way, it's helping to simplify and unify that view of everything that's happening. And just give you a little bit of brief background on those. The container insights it just helps to simplify the analysis of the observable data from those metrics, logs, and traces. And it does it by simplifying that deep linking from automatic dashboards to granular performance events. Application logs, custom logs, predefined EC2 instance logs, all of that, all those logs. And then they can also be, the logs can be ingested and used with CloudWatch Logs Insights, which has the capability of using an advanced query language to pull out those specific logs that matter to you. And then for Lambda Insights, it's basically just simplifying all of the analysis of that observable data from all of the previously mentioned metrics, logs, and traces. And by simplifying that deep linking from automatic dashboards to granular performance events. And then also again, all of the logs, application, custom. You can also use the CloudWatch Logs Insights again for that advanced query language. And then for contributor insights is an analysis time series data to provide a view of the top contributors influencing system performance. Once it's set up, contributor insights is going to run continuously, and it's not going to need any additional user intervention. And this helps developers and operators more quickly isolate, diagnose, and remediate issues during an operational event. There's also the metrics insight, which is a powerful high-performance SQL query engine that you can use to query your metrics at scale. And you can also identify trends and patterns within all of your CloudWatch metrics in real time. Applications Insights is going to provide automated setup of observability for your enterprise applications. So that way you can get visibility into the health of those applications. And then we have dashboards, which Amazon CloudWatch dashboards enable you to just create those reusable graphs and visualize those cloud resources and applications in a unified view. You can graph metrics and logs data side by side in a single dashboard to quickly get the context. And then you are just able to diagnose any issues that you're running into and also come up with a root cause analysis a lot faster. Next, we have alarming, which with Amazon CloudWatch alarms, they allow you to set a threshold on metrics and then trigger an action. So you can automate an action based off of a metric trigger. You can do high resolution alarms and then set a percentile as a statistic, for example. And then you can either specify an action or ignore as appropriate. CloudWatch composite alarms allow you to combine multiple alarms and reduce alarm noise. So that way, if you're running into issue where you're constantly getting pinged, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But this kind of helps to eliminate that. So as I mentioned, the collecting of the metrics earlier, So when you're collecting those metrics from a distributed application, like if you have a microservice architecture, it can be very time consuming. And how we simplify that is CloudWatch allows you to collect default metrics from those 120 AWS services that I mentioned before. And those services include Amazon EC2, DynamoDB, Amazon S3, ECS, Lambda, API Gateway. And the important part here is that without any action on your part. So you don't need to go in, turn anything on, or configure. And then coming down to the open source part, the Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus is a managed monitoring service based on and compatible with Prometheus, which, if you're not familiar, is the popular open source monitoring and alerting solution that is optimized for container environments. It uses the PromQL or Prometheus query language to monitor the performance of your containerized workloads. And then we also have Amazon OpenSearch Service, which is the successor to Amazon Elasticsearch Service. And that just makes it easy for you to perform interactive log analytics, real-time application monitoring, website search, and more. AWS Distro for OpenTelemetry is also a secure production-ready AWS-supported distribution of that OpenTelemetry project. It is used to instrument your applications just once, and then you send correlated metrics and traces to multiple AWS and partner monitoring solutions, as well as supporting X-Ray. It also supports Jaeger and Zipkin tracing. So, as part of our end-to-end observability experience, all the data you collect and ingest is going to be visualized and analyzed using Service Lens on the native side, if you're using the native AWS services, or the managed Grafana on the open source side. You can use CloudWatch Service Lens to visualize and analyze the health, performance, and availability of your applications in that one single pane. That way you don't have to go to a million different links and a million different places to get all of that info. Service Lens is also tied together with CloudWatch metrics and logs, as well as traces from X-Ray, just to give you that complete view. And then lastly, Amazon Managed Service for Grafana is that fully managed service based on Grafana, which is obviously, it is the popular open source analytics platform. And you can query, visualize, alert on, and understand those metrics no matter where they are stored. We can use it to create, explore, and share observability dashboards. All right. And then last thing that I wanted to touch on today is some of the resources that we have for your training and being able to get kind of up to speed on observability and some of our best practices, as well as hands-on experience. So these QR codes that you see here, they're going to take you to, the first one is the One Observability Workshop. And if you're not familiar, our workshops are basically just hands-on, step-by-step tutorials. They're going to guide you through setting up all of these different services that we talked about today. And you're going to be able to get hands-on, test some things out, and then tear it down. And at least for me, that is the best way that I learn, is by getting my hands dirty, getting in there, and playing around with the stuff. Really good stuff in there. And then the observability best practices is just our GitHub guide for best practices. And I'll show you real quick. So this is what it looks like. This is the homepage for that GitHub observability guide. And it's just going to give us some really good guides as far as best practice overview, choosing the correct tool. And then we also have a lot of different links, and then also recipes as well to get you started for whatever it is that you need to monitor and observe. So go ahead and make sure you guys take a screenshot of that or open those links and bookmark it. But that wraps it up for me. So thank you guys very much for joining me today, and appreciate it.